Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week from Rockdale and the Sunday edition. I am pleased to have everybody joining me this evening, and the audience is growing. And I am actually going to go to the chat and say hi to a bunch of people who have joined us. I would like to say hello to Danielle Munez. Hello, Danny. And did you got to see your message? I'm assuming that Alex was able to get Herschel to say to you yesterday. That was a fantastic event we had. And then actually, I attended two events with Herschel yesterday. I went to an event that we held in Rockdale County, the Republican Party for Herschel at the Falcons Fury Harley Davidson. Then I went to an event at the Stockbridge Community Church with Herschel, and then we rounded off the day yesterday with a fourth congressional debate. So had a very busy day yesterday. Cheryl Garcia, welcome to the chat. Mary Boysworth, welcome to the chat. Justin McKinney, welcome to the chat. Dan Burks, nice to have you here, Dan. Tina Hobbs, great to have you. Catherine Lynn. Catherine was one of the individuals that was in attendance at the courthouse task force, and I'm going to be talking about that here in a minute. Charlotte Gellert was also in attendance at the courthouse task force. Gail Owens and Kathy Robinson. So I'm glad to have each and every one of you join me. If I missed you, give me a shout out. And if you didn't say something and you want recognized, say something to me. If I missed you, and I'll shout right. Bill Campbell, I missed you there. Good evening, and thanks for joining the show this evening. So I want to start out by talking, and I talked a little bit of this about on the midweek report on Wednesday, but some of you may not have watched the midweek report, and I just want to make sure that we do cover this and let everybody know the happenings of the week. So the courthouse task force had their meeting at the in the judge's chamber this past week on Tuesday. So so what I did was I went ahead and attended that. I wanted to observe it, see what was going on, see if there was any newsworthy nuggets to report from it. And there were. I mean, it was exactly what I expected it to be. First of all, the committee said that the purpose of this committee, it was Tuesday, Tuesday, not Thursday. So the purpose of the committee was to solely determine the project that was going to be built in Old Town. They were not going to consider any other location. That the purpose of that task force was determine the space needed to build a firm in Old Town and to pick the architectural firm that was actually going to design the project. So that is the primary goal of this task force. The primary goal is to design, to actually determine how much space is needed for all the departments and the courthouse that are going to do that, and they're going to determine which architectural firm is actually going to get the contract to actually design the complex that will eventually be put out to bid. So in doing that, they went through the process of pretending to vote for the chairman and the secretary, which had already been done previously at the secret meeting that they had that was exposed. And then they had to come forward and have in the public meeting, once it was brought forward, you have to have Dan will talk about the bonus nonsense. And that's not a reality. That was something that was thrown out there that made no sense whatsoever. So, but we'll discuss that. When this committee originally met and they called it an organizational meeting, they had already voted on a secretary and a chairperson. So they had to go back and re-elect the same people that they had elected at that inaugural meeting that was in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And we'll just say that. And it was. They had an inaugural meeting that was in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And once they were called out on it, then they backpedaled, had a meeting in public, publicized it like they were supposed to, and are going to have those meetings available for the public to attend moving forward, like they should. So one of the interesting things that I found out during the meeting was that Judge Mumford actually said that he owned property in Old Town. One of the reasons he wanted to see a building put in Old Town, and he did say that it would be quite a task to put this building in Old Town because there was a small footprint to make that happen, because you have to wedge it in a very tight space. And those were from his words. But then when asked about it, citizens were allowed to ask him questions at the end of the meeting. He said, that he owned a building and a business there. And from his standpoint, it made sense for that to be there because it would benefit him with his business and his building. So that's conflict number one that Judge Mumford has. Conflict number two, the PFA was signed into law this past Tuesday. Sue Sanders, the director of whatever she is, the director of many things. And I know you're going to say it, whatever it is, somebody, and I don't care. I'm just going to, the director of many things sounds right to me right now. That's what it is. The director of many things. Director of many things and master of none. That sounds pretty good. I like that. So she clarified that the governor had signed the PFA into a law Tuesday, so it became official. And she had also stated that the total amount that they could do would be $110 million, and that would include any SPLOST monies that would be included in the project. So they made it clear that if the SPLOST would pass, that $19.5 million that is allocated in SPLOST to a courthouse would be attached to the 110. So it wouldn't go to 110 plus the 19.5. It would actually be the like 90,000 plus the 20,000 to make 110. So I found that very interesting because, what we were told that they said it was 110 and flat. So with what we heard at the meeting on Tuesday, that seemed to indicate that they do have a strict $110 million budget that they cannot surpass. So with that being said, they had 110, said that was it. And then Judge Mumford, since that PFA passes, there is a process by which members are appointed to the PFA board. So the chairman of the commission appoints one. The post 1 and post 2 commissioners jointly appoint another member of the board. The district attorney appoints a member of the board, that is 3. Then the chief judge of the county appoints 2. The chief judge of Rockdale County happens to be Robert Mumford. So Judge Mumford, a member of the Judicial Courthouse Task Force, would be an individual that would appoint 2 people that would have a say eventually on a recommendation that a committee he sits on is going to make. That is a direct conflict because a recommendation he is going to make, he is going to appoint 2 people to vote on that recommendation. That's a conflict. The fact that he states he owns a business and building in Old Town that would benefit from a courthouse being built in Old Town, that is a conflict. I sent a request to the Board of Commission that Judge Mumford be removed from the courthouse task force because of the conflicts, and not conflict, but conflicts. I stated 2 conflicts that I believe that Judge Robert Mumford has. And I've spoken to many people about this, some in the judicial realm and some attorneys, and they feel this, by the way this appears, the appearance of this, that it would be, enough that the judge should actually remove himself from that situation and the county shouldn't even have to. But I believe, the question has been asked. The the suggestion from a citizen, which is me, has been made to the Board of Commission that the judge be removed because of conflicts. And I think that that's what we need to look at, is that needs to happen. I'm going to put a statement up that Alex has put from the TPS report. 110 million over 40 years is over 300 million in total payments. So we're looking at $300 million of debt that we would be doing. So, and another thing that I didn't bring it up at the meeting because it's not what this courthouse task force is only going to do. One thing, guys, they are going to look at presenting to the Board of Commission a plan and a architectural firm that will design a building in Old Town. So that's the task force has only got, that's their singular thing. They did ask that they want the records of the previous courthouse committee, and not certain if the director of everything, Sue Sanders, actually has those records. She may have the minutes, but it is my understanding, and if someone in the chat may know this and they may want to put up there, but I do know that someone that's in this chat has mentioned to them that they actually have the records, and if they wanted them, reach out to them and they would provide them. But this person knows they don't have the records because they have the records. So if the task force says they have the records and have been using the records, that won't be true because they don't have the records because someone else. That's why Cheryl. I'm going to put Cheryl's question up here. They did not really address that because they made it clear they have a specific task. Their task is to come up with the amount of space that is needed with the departments that they want to put in a courthouse administrative facility, and that's it. And it's the Board of Commission who has directed this task force. So the Board of Commission has directed them, tell us, because if you recall, when they were having the PFA hearings, the director of everything, Sue Sanders, stated that the courthouse was going to be built in Old Town. So that's the decision that the county elected officials, the Board of Commission, has made. So our plea has to be to the county commission, not the task force. So that's what we have to be concerned about. Let's see what Alex has wrote here. I said, doing this in Old Town Conyers will be a 3-year project that many of the businesses won't survive. Alex, I did pose that question to the task force. I did tell them during my 30 years of doing construction projects throughout the East Coast of the United States that I have seen many projects where they have actually the projects themselves have hindered a business community, and that even the best construction plan and traffic plan did not prevent those business communities from being devastated by a multi-year project. And when a business shuts down and they're shut down for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and they're not coming back. I think everybody that's in the business world knows they are not coming back. So that's what we come down to is, we've got, it's not a logical project, especially when you look at some of the things that the original courthouse committee discussed is, some of the concerns with some of those individuals who were on a lot of the authorities that oversee things in the county were the fact that all the utilities are buried under there, the water, sewer, phone lines and such, and all of that is going to be disrupted. And how long it would be offline, and when how many disruptions there would be. It's very interesting to look at, and I firmly believe what was said by Alex from the TPS report is exactly true. That even with the best construction plan and the best traffic plan, there will be many businesses that will not be able to withstand a 3-year project in Old Town. And, talking with a lot of these individuals and some individuals that were on the past courthouse committee, if you look at 100 well, Jacob Bailey, if you could weather the 3 years, then it would be advantageous. I even question that, Jacob. I don't think your business conditions are going to be any different than they are now, because you're just going to build a building there. There have been studies done that show that judicial complexes don't improve and don't equate to an economic development in an area. So I don't think that that's accurate. I think people may want to believe that's accurate, but if you can survive the 3 years, then yes. But how many are going to survive that 3 years? How many are barely surviving now that won't survive that 3 years? That's the question to ask. And another thing, guys, it doesn't make sense to spend $110 million when we're looking at it from a business perspective and a taxpayer's perspective. Does it make sense to spend $110 million on the building? Then that's not the only expenditures we're going to have. Because talking with people that were on the previous committee, talking to people that are aware of the infrastructure in Old Town, that we're looking at another $50 to $100 million in infrastructure. So $110 million is not $110 million. That's $110 for the building. Then there will be an additional $50 to $100 million in infrastructure. And the reason that number is such an iffy number is because they don't know what actually the damages and repairs and upgrades are going to have to occur to that stuff that's 70 and 80 years old underneath those streets. So we've got a lot to consider. So $110 million project isn't a $110 million project. It could be anywhere from 160 to 210, 20, $30 million project when all is said and done. And when you have, and those are all dollars that fall back on the taxpayers of Rockdale County. So, that's an interesting thing. And I'm going to put something up that Alex just put up here also, because Alex and I had a conversation about that this week. It's not going to bring any new business to Old Town. It'll be county employees who will eat at the cafeteria and people going to the court who frankly want to get the hell out of Dodge as quickly as possible. So, that's Alex's perspective about it. And, Jacob and I, and I appreciate, that you appreciate the show and what we do. And I just want to bring a different perspective. And I'm not belittling your belief, because I actually do believe your business will weather that storm, Jacob, and you guys will, come out the other end okay. But I just think a lot of those businesses are not going to. And that's just my concern about the whole. And it's also my concern because I've spoken to small business owners in Old Town who have talked to county officials who have actually several years ago advised them to sell their businesses, because when they eventually do build the complex they want to build, it will include its own square and market area, and they weren't certain if the existing Old Town would be a viable entity at that point. And those are things that are being said and talked about out there. So I think we're not out of tune or out of touch saying that. So my concern is that this has been a behind the scenes kind of thing all along, that they want to change the perspective and direction of where business is conducted in Old Town. If they want to build this complex, they want to create a market square that surrounds it with green space and redirect the center of Old Town. That would be very interesting as to what they want to do and how they want to do this. So, I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about it on a lot of different levels. But what this task force is set to do is to not do anything but determine the space that's needed for this new facility and determine the architect that's going to design it. Now, the county is going to do their own additional things. So, I mean, don't be surprised if, the courthouse thing is one thing. That's 110 million for the courthouse. But they can do additional things and spend SPLOST monies and like a parking deck that they want to do. They can issue revenue bonds for a parking deck separately. That can be done. Somebody said, well, how can they issue revenue bonds? Because they're going to charge you to park at it. It would be a charged parking thing. And if you have this thing in Old Town and the only way that you can actually go is pay to park, then you're going to pay to park to go to the facility. That's done all over the place. Same thing that happens in Atlanta. You can't go anywhere around the Capitol without paying to park because it's all paid parking. You can't go to Atlanta Harts Field without paying to park. That happens all in municipalities all over the place, that they will have a paid parking deck adjacent that you are going to have to pay to park. Now, let's just say you're doing jury duty. They will validate your parking if you're doing jury duty, and you won't have to pay for parking because your parking would be validated. But people that are coming there to do business and this and that, and then I even know of places that I've worked in the past that employees, they pay for a monthly parking spot and such. They get a discount, but they pay for a monthly parking spot. So I would say that the parking deck that will initially need to be built would be done with revenue generated bonds. And if you're going to pay to park to do business in Old Town, that's what's going to happen, guys. I mean, plain and simple. That's the way that cookie crumbles and the way they do business. So if we don't want these kind of things to happen, then it's up to us to do some things about it. Alex said they'll give them passes at our expenses, then they probably will do that. So one of the things that I would like to see us do is let's elect a new commissioner. By electing a new commissioner like Efat Walker or Renee Simpson instead of Doreen Williams, because I'm going to make this statement. I'm going to make this statement at the end of the show too, because I'm going to talk about voting. Do not vote for Doreen Williams. No one in Rockdale County should vote for Doreen Williams. Vote for one of these other individuals so they can get up there and fight against this spending and be a no vote for this courthouse nonsense in Old Town. And so, we want you to go and fight this. And maybe this person can convince one of the other persons to go against it and do the right thing. Because let's talk. We've already talked about spending a couple $100 million minimum in Old Town when you talk about infrastructure. So let's talk about an alternative building site, Parker Road. We have 50 acres over there of unused property that we have access to right now, that we could build a courthouse over there for 30-40 million bucks. If the infrastructure would not be an issue, there's open land there, easy access, easy to hook everything up. There's already ample parking, and there's an area there to build additional parking. There is a 4-lane highway that is adjacent to the property so that you would have traffic flow would not be an issue. There's actually a large area there to build a large access road that you would have access to the property, because in the land plan that Mr. Alex McDonald drew a few years ago, that access road is drawn into the land plan. The county would save $100 million or more, $100 million or more by building a Parker Road. And they've already got their PFA. They're going to spend it on something. They could use the PFA to build their building because they're going to spend that money, guys. They've got it. They're going to spend it. So, they could spend that money there and not spend it all in one place. Alex, I'll put that, what Alex says here. He says, The access road was a feature, a grand entrance to the new courthouse. That's right, it was a feature. That we, that you could add to that. So, guys, we could do that. And Alex, if I'm not mistaken, I mean that plan was like $25 million, less than 30, and that included that access road. I mean, that wasn't an add-on. That included the access road. I do not know if you included adding the infrastructure, water, sewer, and all that stuff or not in your plan, but I do know that the access road was included in your plan. So, guys, we look at things and do we want to spend smart or just spend a whole lot of money? Do we want to spend smart or just spend a whole lot of money? So that would be the thing that we're looking at. We need a juvenile court. Parker Road would be a solid option. Yeah, Parker Road would be a solid option for a juvenile court, along with the other courthouse facility that we would have there. So I agree. We could build, but that's one of the things they intend on adding to the courthouse in Old Town. They've already said the juvenile facility would be part of that facility. So that's something they're already looking at that space as. So whatever space you need, they're saying they need at Old Town, just put that space over at Parker Road. There's plenty of space to do it, and it won't cost as much because we don't have to acquire any additional land. And they've already said that that footprint is very tight of where they're going to try to build that. So if you've already got an area where it's very tight, most of the times when you do one of these construction projects, you need a laydown area that is almost, or if not as big as the area that you're building in. So that means that they really would not have storage would have to be off-site, and they would have to bring materials in almost daily to work on this project. So materials would not be readily available on site to be moved, a short distance. The laydown area would have to be away from the site, and they would have to truck things in and unload things on a daily basis that they would be working with material wise. And that can be an issue as far as that goes on. So, guys, I think that moving forward, the task force are going to do what they're going to do. We just keep an eye on it, see what they want to do. We know the price tag. The price tag is predestined, $110 million. But one of the suggestions made the other day, and I'm going to go to what Dan had mentioned, but one of the committee members had mentioned that to give a $20,000 bonus to the company that submitted the best offer for that. But this is the thing about it is you got $110 million cap, and you're going to give $20,000 to somebody for their design. The bonus is actually winning the contract. Winning the contract and getting the job is the bonus. I wouldn't give anybody a bonus to do that. That is the bonus is getting the job. We've got X number of dollars, and that's throwing money away. And let's see what Jacob says. Nice logical point. Catherine Lynn's statement is: it seemed clear to me at their meeting that they were focused only on Old Town. They were using an aerial map label to show what there is currently. Maybe the question to ask is when the decision was made on the location and why it was done behind the scenes without any public input. Yeah, Catherine, this is the thing about it. I mentioned in a post that I put this week that the citizens of Rockdale County actually do get an opportunity to make their voice heard about this. And I think everybody here needs to spread that word. There are ballot questions that are on the ballot that we start voting on tomorrow. The Republican questions, we have two, and they specifically say, one says, do you believe we should build a facility at Parker Road for $40 million using SPLOST? Yes or no. The second, do you believe we should build a courthouse in Old Town with bonds or loans, $140 million? So we get to answer that. The Democrats also ask a question, and that question was, should an alternative to Old Town be considered for building a judicial complex? So both parties have asked their constituency, do you want to build in Old Town or not? We've asked it in little different ways, but both parties have. But this is the thing about it. Do you know that this question has already been answered? This question was answered in 2018 when this county put a referendum on the ballot asking the voters to approve a $140 million bond to build a courthouse in Old Town. And 70% of the voters of Rockdale County answered with a no. This has already been voted on by the taxpayers of Rockdale County once. In 2018, when the question was posed to the taxpayers of Rockdale County and the voters, do you want to issue bonds in the amount of $140 million to build a courthouse in Old Town Conyers? The answer was clear. 70% of the voters of Rockdale County said not just no, but you know what they said? They said, oh, hell no. But this Board of Commission never gave up on having their Taj Mahal in Old Town Conyers. And no matter what the citizens of this county said, they were going to build that building in Old Town come hell or high water. So again, you have a task force that has been set forward to make a decision on what the space is that's needed in Old Town, not if it's needed in Old Town. That's not the choice of this task force. So this task force will be determining the amount of the size of a building that needs to be built in Old Town. So what we need to keep in mind is that the citizens of Rockdale County, again, have a chance to send that same message to these elected officials. The answer should be no to the 140 and to be yes to the 40 million by SPLOST. And then the Democrat, you should vote that yes, an alternative location should be considered. And then, in my opinion, the most important ballot that Democrats can cast in this county is this: by not voting for Doreen Williams. Because the reason Doreen Williams will be defeated, with one of the main ones, will be this courthouse thing. If the voters of Rockdale County send the message, oh, hell no, Doreen, we don't want your $200 million, because that's what it's going to be, and they defeat her, then that sends a message to those other two morons that sit on that board. If we want even a chance to be elected in 2 years, we need to rethink this situation. We need to rethink this situation. First, answer those ballot questions. Let them know that you propose, that you support the smaller $40 million project at Parker Road using SPLOST. Second, Democrats, let them know that yes, you do support an alternative location to Old Town. And third, Democrats, vote for Efat Walker or Renee Simpson. Do not vote for Doreen Williams. Send the message that enough spending is enough spending. Those other two will get the message. If you send Doreen packing, they will reconsider a lot of things coming forward, because they know that if they keep going against the citizens, they won't have those jobs. That's what's going on. So guys, I'm just asking you, think about this. Do the right thing. I'm actually going to talk about this voting thing again at the end of the show, because it is so, so important. But I'm going to move on right now. I am going to talk a little bit about the Board of Education, my next favorite group of morons. Okay. So I'm going to throw something up on the board here, and we're going to talk about 16,500 clear backpacks. So if you'll see, I've thrown up a PO, a purchase order that the county had issued, and they actually purchased 16,500 clear backpacks at $11.35 each, which came to $187,275. So this is the thing. I mean, should the county be buying backpacks for students? I mean, they're going to waste millions of dollars, whatever. But this is the thing. Our county doesn't discuss what's going on in our school system, our Board of Education. Why would we need 16,500 clear backpacks? What's going on in the school system? What's going on in the school system that would mandate that they have clear backpacks? What kind of activities are occurring? So are people bringing things to the school that they shouldn't, and that we need to have clear backpacks so we can determine what people are bringing? Are they bringing dangerous things to the school? Is this uncontrollable? Do the citizens of Rockdale County know we have an issue with contraband and dangerous things being brought to the school on a daily basis? Well, that's what's going on. But this has not been made clear to the citizens of Rockdale County. My daughter has a child in the Rockdale County school system, and she was upset about the backpack thing. And well, she was not upset because they are getting them a backpack. She wasn't upset that it was a clear backpack, but she was upset because the school system hasn't talked to her as to why her child has to have a clear backpack, and is her child safe at that school system. DeKalb County is going through a crisis right now because things have been exposed in DeKalb County because their kids did videos. And they had a policy that the children were not allowed to talk about this. The children even violated their policy by doing this video. So the DeKalb County school system had a policy in place that infringed upon those kids' First Amendment rights. Yeah. They had a policy in place that they were not allowed to discuss things that went on in the school system, and they weren't allowed to do videos of things that might not have been good that were going on in the school system. But you had these kids do these videos anyway. Those kids had a First Amendment right to expose what was going on in that school. They had a First Amendment right to expose that sewage openly flowed in their cafeteria. They had a First Amendment right to say that they were being asked to go to school in unsanitary conditions. So I'm asking, Rockdale County school kids, you need to do videos. You need to show what's going on in that school system. If we have a school system that is so out of control, if we have a school system to where it's so dangerous, if we have a school system that those in charge are fearful for their lives enough that they're requiring clear backpacks to determine what an individual has on their body at any given time, then we need to be very concerned about the control and the discipline and what this Board of Education and this superintendent are doing with this school system. We have that right as voters and taxpayers because we pay for this school system. Every single one of us pay for this school system. Us taxpayers pay for this school system. We have a right to know what's going on in this school system. We have a right to demand better in the school system. And there I come to this pesky little thing called the ballot again. The Rockdale Republican Party decided to put what appears to be a very controversial ballot question on the ballot. We specifically ask if the Rockdale County Board of Education should remove Terry Oates as school superintendent. And I'm asking all Republicans to vote yes, that this Board of Education should remove Terry Oates as school superintendent. First, he has led Rockdale County, his 3+ years as superintendent, in a downward trajectory. Of the 159 counties in Georgia, Rockdale County ranks 143. Of 159, 143. There was a day in Rockdale County where we were one of the top 5 school systems in the state of Georgia. That has long passed Rockdale County. I looked up some data here earlier and said Rockdale County, 143 out of 159. So guys, it's time to send a message. And we can send a message at the ballot box. We can send that message by saying, yes, the Rockdale County Board of Education should replace Terry Oates as school superintendent. The Cab County Board of Education just fired their superintendent and put an interim superintendent in. But the reality is not only should that superintendent have been let go, but the board members should have been let go too. So that's ridiculous. And let's talk a little more about this Rockdale County Board of Education. The Rockdale County Board of Education had put out a statement that they were most likely going to have to increase their budget. They were going to have to increase their budget because the state is reducing the amount of money that they will provide Rockdale County in the school formula system. Now, the school formula system, they supply the county with money depending on the amount of students that are in the system. So Rockdale County school system indicated that they have had declined enrollment, so they will not be receiving the same amount of funds. So they will be needing to increase their budget, and they will be needing to increase revenue from their side of the picture. So we can look at there being increased millage rate. We can look at the property assessments again, because they feed the Board of Education and they feed the Board of Commission. All of us just got our tax assessment, and that is without any revised millage rates. So we can look at getting a revised tax statement, because both of these entities are going to raise your millage rates. The Board of Education and the Board of Commission will both raise your millage rates. The Board of Education has stated they are going to have an 8% budget increase. They're going to have an 8% budget increase and have indicated that they have a enrollment decline. They have a decline in the number of students that will be attending Rockdale County schools. The attendance has already declined from the beginning to the end of the year. So Rockdale County enrollment has declined, but they have determined they need to raise the budget by 8%. Now, you tell me in what world that makes sense, that if you have a declining student population that you need to raise the budget. It does not make sense. We got some people on the ballot this time. I think we have one of our post people that are up for re-election and are unopposed. We have an empty seat where we have a former 2-term board member running against someone who's never served. You know, guys, it's just, me personally, I'm a term limit guy. I believe once you've served a couple of times, you did your time. If you didn't really accomplish anything that time, it's time to move on, let somebody new serve. So one of the things we can do is let's elect somebody new to the school board. And then in 2 years, we have 5 school board members up for election. Let's clean the slate and elect 5 new members in 24. Let's elect a new school board member now, and let's elect a new school board member, 5 new school board members in 24. That sends a message, and that's a way to get true change and true leadership in this county by voting for people who want to make a change and are not just going to follow the status quo. True leadership is what we need to do. Alex says they're going to say because they're going to have smaller classrooms and whatever. And that, that's all BS. Small enrollment, smaller budget. Don't fall for the BS. We have an opportunity to put somebody new in office. Put somebody new in office. The other person had his opportunity. Not a bad guy. Know him personally. He's a good guy. But he had his turn in office. It's not a personal thing here. It's when you've already been there and you really didn't do anything to change the system while you were there. Why should we put you back there again to just be the status quo? Let's give somebody new a chance. Let's change these public officials like you do your underwear, hopefully daily. Let's change these guys. We can change someone out now and hopefully make a difference. So, guys, we just have too much waste in this county. Our property taxes are going to soar. We need to elect people that are going to be concerned about us and worry about us and not worry about the bottom line for themselves. Now let's talk about corruption and greed. One name comes to mind to me, Sherry Washington. Corruption and greed. Sherry Washington. Sherry Washington is a disgraced commissioner in Rockdale County. Sherry Washington needs to resign her post as Rockdale County Commission. Their Channel 5 has had, at least they have done part of their story on 3 individuals who came forward and told their story about Sherry Washington accepting money and not doing services. 2 of those individuals have actually been awarded claims against Sherry Washington. One individual was awarded a claim for over $48,000. The other individual was awarded a claim for over $3,000. The individual with the $48,000 claim then went on to garnish Sherry Washington's Board of Commission's salary. Sherry Washington will be facing the Supreme Court attempting to defend the recommendations of the state bar of her license being taken away. Her license needs to be taken away because she failed to uphold her oath as an attorney. She needs to be removed from office as a commissioner for failing to uphold her oath as a commissioner. I don't think Sherry Washington will be removed from office. I think she'll meander on along there for 2 more years. I even think she'll run for re-election. But I don't think she'll win. I think the voters of Rockdale County, the citizens of Rockdale County, will have seen through this charade and nonsense and will say enough is enough. I actually hope that I'm wrong and that Sherry Washington will be removed from office. I deeply hope that I am wrong about this situation and that she is removed from office. But in case I'm not, and she does linger around for 2 more years, then the citizens of Rockdale County need to be prepared in 24 to make sure that she does not serve 1 minute longer than she does. The citizens of Rockdale County deserve representation. What I ask we do is that anyone has been wronged by Sherry Washington, they come forward. They go to the state bar and they file a complaint. They go to Channel 5 and they call Dale Russell and tell Dale Russell. You call This Week from Rockdale. You call Larry Cox. You go to This Week from Rockdale, my Facebook page, my number's there. I'm not hard to find. You get a hold of me, you can come on this show and you can tell your story about Sherry Washington defrauding you, taking your money and not providing services. You all have that ability to do. I'm offering this show as as a way for you to actually say and tell your story. So, guys, we need to work together because we can't put up with this kind of stuff any longer. And there's a way to do it, and it's called the ballot box. And that's what I'm going to get into my last few minutes on the show, and we're going to talk about early voting. Early voting begins tomorrow, and we have an opportunity as voters of Rockdale County to send a message by using our God-given constitutional right to vote. As citizens of this country, we're guaranteed that right. And we can use it, and we can send a message and a statement. First, vote no against the SPLOST. This SPLOST was introduced illegally, and the monies have been used improperly for a long time. This money is used as a slush fund to supplement the county budget. Doreen Williams and Oz Nesmith both have stated publicly the county can't survive without the SPLOST, because by making those statements, they are indicating that the SPLOST they consider essential funding. The legislation which established the SPLOST made it clear that the SPLOST is not essential funding. It is selective funding for special projects. It is not essential funding. So if we are using that money as essential funding, it is being used illegally. The SPLOST must be introduced with projects. A Supreme Court decision stated that the projects do not have to be in detail. They can be listed. They must be listed and a minimum description. A minimum description must be given. Does not have to be detailed, but a minimum description, and it must be projects. That has to happen. We must defeat this SPLOST to send a message that we want this Board of Commission to follow the law. Secondly, we must defeat Doreen Williams at the ballot box. We must say enough is enough. That we don't need a commissioner that voted to give Parker Road away to a nonprofit, and now this same commissioner has her nonprofit in that facility. And actually, her nonprofit's name is written on where the Board of Elections used to be. So when people complain about the parking and the traffic and the difficulty in early voting this time, just go drive by Parker Road and see whose office, whose nonprofit now sits in the very spot where you used to go vote when you had plenty of parking and plenty of space. It's called Grace and Grit. I call it scrambled eggs. It's Doreen Williams' nonprofit, which she actually also voted to fund with some county monies, which is a conflict of interest. So that's what we need to do. Those two things: vote against the SPLOST, vote against Doreen Williams. You've got two alternatives: Efat Walker, Renee Simpson. Do the research, make the decision. Then we've got ballot questions. We've got questions on that ballot that we can let this Board of Commission know. First, we want the courthouse built at Parker Road with SPLOST money. That's on the Republican ballot. Answer yes to that. Yes, build that courthouse with $40 million SPLOST money, Parker Road. Second, the Democrats have a question. Should an alternative site other than Parker Road other than Old Town be considered? And the answer is yes. An alternative site other than Old Town should be considered. We can send a strong message starting tomorrow by voting against this nonsense. Send a message. Enough is enough. I'm going to be asking people to help me with sign waving at Parker Road. If you would like to volunteer to wave signs to vote no for the SPLOST, reach out to me, Larry Cox. You can send a message on the Rockdale Voter. You can send an email to thisweekfromrockdale at gmail.com. Or you can send a message to me. My phone number is 524-6159. I'm going to put that up there, 678-524-6159. Reach out to me and let me know that you would like to wave signs. Reach out to me and let me know you want to help with this effort, and we will be glad. Reach out to me and let me know you want a sign in your yard, and we will bring one to your yard. We put up a bunch of vote no splosh signs throughout the county today. We're going to let people know that they have a chance and they can make a difference. We have a video that Alex McDonald and I made a few weeks ago. We've got over 2,500 views right now, with over 1,500 of those being through plays, which means people have watched that video all the way through. If we get 4,000 people to watch this video by the end of election, we will defeat this splosh. We will defeat this splosh. Alex asked, where do we stand on the host signatures? Alex, we've done really well with that, but we've determined that what we would like to do is regroup with that and let this election process get by. And we want to actually redo that petition, start again with that after the general election, and try to do a special election with that next year, because that needs to be a standalone issue. We feel that needs to be a standalone issue. And with having that as a standalone issue, we feel that would have a better chance of doing better on the ballot, and we'll discuss that at a Rockdale voter group. We're getting ready to have our first meeting of the council that the Rockdale voter has organized, and once we have that council meeting and make a decision about that, we'll put that out to the public. But that is something that we're going to do, and just with COVID hit and just having difficulty getting people out to do signatures, we just feel that's something we may need to regroup with and reboot. So we do appreciate everyone's effort so far, but I do think that's something that we can do. But we got to remember that was passed as a state law. There was no sunset on that. We have no time limit to do that. So we can regroup, and that can be just an isolated effort that we're doing. Focus on it, get it done with no COVID stuff, and just people not freaking out if you're coming to their doors and such. I think we'll have an easier time to accomplish that. But remember, guys, early voting tomorrow morning. Be there. Go vote. Let your voice be heard. If you want a vote no splosh sign, let me know. If you want to help wave signs at early voting, reach out to me, let me know, and we can make it happen and we can get this done. Guys, I have talked for a whole hour. I've ranted and raved, and don't know how many people I've made angry with me, made happy with me. But you know what? We've spoken the truth on this show, and we've brought you reality. We've given you some decisions for you to make, and we've let you know that if you decide to make a difference, that you can make that difference, that you have the ability to enact change. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight, because without you, none of this is possible. Without you spreading the word, without you watching this show, without you sharing this show, and without your help, we can't accomplish anything. It takes each and every one of us to make a difference in this county. And I believe we will make a difference in this county because there are enough people who actually care. So again, thank each and every one of you. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you this Wednesday on the Midweek Report. Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on the This Week from Rockdale Midweek Report. Good night and have a good week until Wednesday.